Good evening. I'm Christy Stigler for the 10 o'clock news here on ABC 7. Our top story tonight is the continuing military situation occurring within the nation of Saudi Arabia, which descended into civil war 3 days ago following the execution of 23-year-old Omar al-Essa, a prominent liberal activist and businessman in the region, with ties to the Saudi royal family. On the scene, just outside of Riyadh, is Aris Rifal. Aris?
Christy, I'm just outside of Riyadh, where, as you can hear behind me, gunfire is occurring. On the street below me, the Saudi Arabian army continues to fight defecting units of their own forces that joined civilians who have simultaneously rose up against their government. This event has come as quite a surprise to most geopolitical experts, who, despite low oil prices and the economic downturn here at home negatively affecting the Saudi economy, thought that the Arabian nation would be able to survive the economic downturn peacefully. Clearly though, the events below have drastically changed the outlook. A nation that was once viewed as an unstoppable powerhouse is now on its knees. While President Philip Brooke has sent a contingent of United States peacekeeping units in an attempt to make sure that the fighting does not spill out of control, as it did in Syria many years ago, many experts just wonder how the United States military will be able to control the infighting that is occurring within the nation, and even more importantly, whose side the United States is on in this rapidly developing conflict. As of now, these questions remain unanswered, and they will probably only be answered once the United States contingent arrives. This is Aris Rifal for ABC 7, just outside of Riyadh.
While the military situation in Saudi Arabia continues to intensify, public reaction to the Brooke administration's decision to send the military into Saudi Arabia has been decidedly mixed and almost negative, even amongst members of the ruling Democratic Party. Here in Washington with more information is our correspondent Russell Westlake. Russell?
I'm live outside a protest has occurred on the National Mall and outside the White House. About 50,000 people are currently standing on the lawn proper and in front of the White House in total, and more people are coming in, protesting what can be described as the largest military action undertaken by the United States since the Iraq War in 2003.
Russell, can you describe the nature of the people outside?
The attitude of the protest is rather calm, a stark contrast from the riots 3 years ago in Akron following the occurrence of the Second Great Recession, or the riots in Berkeley 3 years ago following liberal-conservative conflicts in the area after the Trump administration's decision to not re-enter the Paris Climate Agreement. Despite the occurrence of the record-breaking 2018 hurricane season, in which 15 named storms occurred by June, with the city of Galveston being completely destroyed. Many here were afraid that the protests would degenerate into the madness that occurred then, but so far, the protests have remained rather peaceful. However, despite the peacefulness of the protesters, many are still showing anger and feelings of being betrayed towards the actions of the Brooke administration, claiming that this intervention was only meant to keep a corrupt regime in power, and to benefit Brooke's arms manufacturing business which he removed himself from back in late 2020.
There's a general understanding here that even politicians in their own parties are finding it difficult to pick a side here. There's even a report that says that President Philip Brooke and Vice President Serenity Llewellyn have differed on this issue. Can you confirm that?
Christy, there's reports that conservatives and liberals are not necessarily staying within their own party lines over this hotly contested issue. While Brooke does seem to enjoy some bipartisan support regarding the reaction to the crisis in Saudi Arabia, many conservatives, expecting to go for the decision, are backing off and joining the majority of liberals who are crying out against this action. However, the opposite is also true. Vice President Llewellyn was even quoted just a short time ago as saying, "The United States intervention in Saudi Arabia was both an unnecessary action, and I question my superior's decision to send troops into a situation that would most likely make an already terrible situation much worse, and possibly prop up an already corrupt nation. If he wants to keep the troops, he'll need to clarify his position." By contrast, President Brooke argued that not intervening could leave Saudi Arabia in a situation that might entice Iran, who had been at odds with Saudi Arabia over the past few years, to take advantage of the situation. So, despite the protesting, it is believed that the decision to send troops into Saudi Arabia will go ahead as planned.
Finally, there are reports that say that despite the violence in Saudi Arabia, President Brooke is still planning to watch Game 6 and possibly 7 of the Capitals Penguins playoff series at the White House. Is that true?
It is. The president has said that his plans have not necessarily been changed by this development.
Okay then, Thanks for your help, Russell.
Anytime.
We're now going to cut to a commercial break, but don't change that channel, as we'll be back with more local news and broadcasting when we return, including news regarding the upcoming game in the playoff series against the Penguins, of which the Capitals currently lead 3-2 games. This is ABC 7, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Game 7 of the second-round playoff series between the Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins. If you're just tuning in, we're currently in between the second and third periods, and it has been a closely fought game, with the scores at 2-2 coming into this third period. What do you think of this game so far, Brian?
Peter, as a neutral, this has been one of, if not the most contested games I've ever witnessed. The home atmosphere is very different here, as the Washington Capitals are looking for their first ever Eastern Conference final since 1998, and having lost 3 games in a row to the Penguins in this series, with the possibility that Pittsburgh might beat them again, the pressure on the Caps to perform is rather high. The atmosphere is also helped by having the President of the United States watching along with the Secretary of State at the White House. On the other side, though, you have a Pittsburgh team that, despite losing the first 3 games, has done fairly well to remain in the series and is hoping, once again, to send the Caps packing. To make a long story short, this third period is going to be fairly interesting.
Well, Brian, we're going to just have to wait, and we're just going to have to see.
That's gunfire. Get out. Get out. Shut it off. Shut up.
The following message has been transmitted at the request of the Metropolitan Police Department and the Virginia National Guard. At 8:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 gunmen disguised as concession workers broke into an event center and opened fire. While no one has been killed, it is reported that the gunmen have taken 19 people hostage, including 2 radio broadcasters. While the intentions and identities of the group and its members are currently unknown, both the Metropolitan Police Department and the Virginia National Guard are working to resolve the situation in a peaceful manner. In the meantime, both the Metropolitan Police Department and the Virginia National Guard are currently instituting roadblocks in a half-mile radius around the stadium. Do not enter this area without official permission from the civil authorities. You will be arrested. Repeating, at 8:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 gunmen broke into the event center and opened fire, taking 19 people hostage, and roadblocks have been placed at a half-mile radius around the stadium. Do not enter this area without official permission, or you will be arrested.
This is WTEM with continuing live coverage of the hostage situation at Etihad Center. Now, while we are traditionally a sports coverage station, given the situation, we've sort of had to transition into being a news station, and given the situation facing our 2 broadcasters stuck behind enemy lines, if you will, we've been forced into this situation. Now, from what we understand, our 2 broadcasters, Peter McCann and Brian Call, are claiming that the terrorists are wishing for a live transmission, so we're now going live to Etihad Center.
Is this thing on? Is this thing?
It's on, Peter.
I sure as hell hope so, Brian, because... yeah. Sir, you can speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. By now, I am sure you are aware of the situation facing the people here at Evans Center, and we're pretty well aware how much you guys probably hate us. And no, we're not, nor are we ever going to reveal our real names. You know why. Before we begin, I do hope that President Brooke is listening right now, as he has everything to do with this situation. I'm going to cut to the chase and pretty much tell you what we are going to do, and what those negotiating with us can do to help the situation. First, we are going to release all but the 2 radio broadcasters. We are not evil people, but given our inability to operate a radio, it will be nearly impossible to broadcast our demands. The rest of the hostages can go. They are merely innocents in this situation, and we have no need for them. As for the demands regarding the situation, we have the following. All law enforcement personnel, whether it be Metropolitan Police or otherwise, are to remain 50 yards away from the stadium. Any attempt to remove us from the building will be met with severe consequences. This is not a bluff. We have, in our possession, stolen pocket-sized fuel air bombs capable of destroying not only the stadium proper, but everything in a 6-block radius. If we are advanced upon closer than 50 yards, or if our ability to transmit demands is cut, we will detonate these devices. Finally, in terms of what we want, we have the following. First, and most importantly, we demand that all United States troops be removed from Saudi Arabia immediately. These troops are only being sent to prop up a corrupt regime that invokes horrible human rights abuses on its people, and to alleviate arms sales. 2. President Brooke is to resign immediately, and for Vice President Llewellyn to step in as the new president. We feel that she is far more capable than her superior. Lastly, should these 2 conditions be met, we demand a plane be flown into Dulles International Airport with enough fuel to travel to Colombia. Our travel to the plane shall not be impeded, and neither should our travel to Colombia. Should these 3 demands not be met within 2 days, we will detonate the devices. We do not do these actions out of anger, or out of selfishness, but as a sign to President Brooke that the American people will not stand for the propping up of corrupt governments. Thank you.
One moment while I search roof repair. Sure, I can call Ralph. Calling Ralph. Looking up vacation rentals in St. Bart's. Okay, here.
The following message has been transmitted at the request of the Metropolitan Police Department and the Virginia National Guard. Due to the potential risk of a terrorist bomb exploding at Evans Center, all District of Columbia residents within a half-mile radius of Evans Center are to evacuate immediately. Do not hesitate, as an explosion may occur at any time. Before you leave, take the following actions. Gather enough food and supplies for your family to last for at least 3 days. Take a first aid kit, along with a flashlight, and remember to bring a battery-powered radio. If you require assistance in moving, call 911. If you have space in your vehicle, see if you can take others into your vehicle. The Washington Metro has suspended normal operations in the vicinity of Evans Center so as to help with evacuations. Evacuation shelters will soon be operational, but in the meantime, be prepared to take care of yourself. Repeating, an involuntary evacuation has been transmitted at the request of the Metropolitan Police Department and the Virginia National Guard for District of Columbia residents within a 6-block radius of Evans Center. This message will repeat in 5 minutes.
We're continuing with our live coverage of terror at EAS Center, where, as we speak, police remain in a tense standoff with a group of terrorists that have been holding two radio broadcasters hostage for more than 30 hours. For more information on the standoff, we now go live to Russell Westlake, who is near this standoff.
Thank you, Christy. So far, as we can tell, none of the demands have been met, and from what information gathered from our correspondents at the White House, President Brooke is showing no signs of backing down from his position. This isn't really surprising since President Brooke has been repeatedly quoted as saying, "There is no room for negotiation with terrorists." Also, the official response from the administration is that they don't believe the terrorists even have a weapon, and that the troops will remain in Saudi Arabia for the foreseeable future.
What is the response on the part of the protesters? From what the terrorists are saying, they seem to fall in line with what the protesters want.
It appears the protesters think this was too strong of a reaction, and many are actually outright terrified, and they have a right to be. With only 18 hours left on the clock, and President Brooke seemingly unable to break away from this deadly game of chicken, one wonders just how this will end.
Russell, it appears that the terrorists are putting out another communication. Now, keep in mind that this is coming from a group of people that have taken two men hostage, so viewer discretion is advised.
Mr. Brooke, how long must you wait? Do you not see how the situation could just be easily resolved if you just acted? We've given you time, and we've given you reasonable demands. Is this because you're afraid that stepping down will reveal you as the wretch you are? Is that it?
That's not necessary.
I don't really care for any statements from the peanut gallery. Now, as for your administration's decision to say that we don't have the bombs, let's just say this. While we can't prove that we had them, I must point out that you cannot prove we don't have them either. The thing is, 18 hours remain. We won't be extending the time, nor will we be deviating from our cause. We don't want to detonate the devices, but the decision is yours. Please, for the benefit of the Saudi people and the city, make the right decision.
Well, I can't exactly say that anything has changed from the previous broadcast by the terrorists, but I can say one thing for sure. The situation has definitely gone from bad to worse, and with the limited amount of time left, it's impossible to tell how this will end. We apparently now have Russell back on the line, who has some new information regarding the standoff.
Yeah, Christy, we may have a situation here. I'm watching from my position, and it looks like... Oh my god.
Russell, what's going on?
I don't know what's going on. It looks like a team of Navy SEALs is preparing to storm the building, and... That's gunfire! We have gunfire inside the stadium. There are flashing guns from inside the building. Just an amazing or terrifying sight. It looks like the police are moving up, trying to take advantage of the situation surrounded by the SEALs, and...
We seem to have lost our contact near EAS Center. While this is not a confirmation of the... We'll be back to you in a moment.
The following message has been transmitted at the request of the Metropolitan Police Department and the Virginia National Guard. At 3:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, an explosive device was detonated at EAS Center following an attempt by Navy SEALs and the Metropolitan Police Department to liberate the stadium. Everything within a 6-block radius of the stadium has been destroyed, and fires are now spreading throughout the affected area. If you lived in this area, do not return home. Repeat, do not return home. While authorities are currently working to handle the situation, all citizens within a 1-mile radius of EAS Center must evacuate immediately from the area. Shelters are being set up to deal with this situation, and the locations of these shelters will be announced in a later broadcast. Fires from the explosion may spread rapidly, and there may not be much time before the fires reach your area. If you think you have time, gather enough food and supplies to last you and your family for at least 3 days, and pack a first aid kit, a flashlight, and a battery-powered radio. However, if you do not have time, forego the supply gathering and evacuate now. If you, or someone you see needs assistance, Help them if you can safely, or dial 911. However, due to the present situation, it may be some time before help arrives. Citizens are also reminded to avoid using the telephone if it is not necessary during this emergency. The District Department of Transportation, along with the Virginia Department of Transportation, also wish to make aware to all citizens that contraflow has been enacted on I-395, US 50, I-66, US 1, and the George Washington Parkway for the purposes of evacuation. However, despite these actions, traffic flow is still expected to be high. Consider leaving on minor roads to avoid congestion entirely. Repeating, due to the detonation of an explosive device at Etihad Center, all citizens within a 1-mile radius of Etihad Center are under an involuntary evacuation order and are required to evacuate immediately.
Please stand by for a message from a representative of the President.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I have stood before you under both the Trump administration and the Bush administration, announcing tragedies such as the Galveston hurricane in 2018 and the Los Angeles earthquake in 2020, but never before have I had to announce such a dire and terrible situation as this. By now, the news of the destruction of Etihad Center and a large portion of Washington, D.C. must now have spread throughout the United States and the world. Luckily, thanks to prompt evacuation procedures, the death toll has been very low. However, many fires are now burning throughout the District of Columbia, and we can sadly confirm that the Etihad Center, in addition to everything in a 6-block radius, has been completely destroyed. It is hard to imagine that anyone at state has survived. It is even far worse than it is possible, and at least for now, that we do not know who is behind this terrible attack. Our hearts and prayers go out to the families of the victims lost in this brutal attack, and to those that have now lost everything. We are here for you, and we will stand with you throughout this tumultuous time. I wish I could stop here, but unfortunately, I have far more dire news to announce, news that has not yet been picked up by the major news outlets. After hearing the news of the destruction of Etihad Center and everything within a 6-block radius following the attempt of a Navy SEAL team to liberate the stadium, President Brooks suffered a fatal heart attack shortly thereafter. I wish I could stop here, but unfortunately, I have far more dire news to announce, news that has not yet been picked up by the major news outlets. After hearing the news of the destruction of Etihad Center and everything within a 6-block radius following the attempt of a Navy SEAL team to liberate the stadium, President Brooks suffered a fatal heart attack shortly thereafter. Vice President Serenity Llewellyn has been sworn in as the new president, and she has instructed me, along with the rest of the nation, to know that she did not hate President Brooks for his recent actions, more that she merely disagreed with him, and that every single American citizen should now be in mourning over this great tragedy. She also wishes to state that, while the politics that led to this tragedy have divided us, we must unite against this common enemy, so that this type of tragedy will never happen again. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America.
That was a message from a representative of the President. We will now return to the emergency alert system.
This concludes operations of the emergency alert system. Normal programming will now resume. This is an administrative message from the Metropolitan Police Department, the District of Columbia Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department, the FBI and the Virginia National Guard. The fires that have been threatening the District of Columbia area have been mostly extinguished, and those that are still in progress have been fully contained. Repeating, the fires in the District of Columbia area have been contained. Civil authorities will, over the next few hours and days, be contacting you via email and cellular devices to inform you when or if you can return home. However, until such time, remain at your shelters or present location. In regards to the perpetrators of the bombing, the criminals have been identified as the following: James Williams, Albert Marshall, and Nicole Angel. These three criminals have been identified as members of Red Iris, an extremist far-left organization, led by Katrina Feeler. Katrina is a Caucasian woman in her mid-20s, is 6 feet tall, has long black hair, and has a tattoo of a sickle on her left arm. If you spot her, contact the authorities immediately, but do not approach her, as she is considered armed and dangerous. More information regarding this organization and potential members can be found on the FBI's website at www.fbi.gov.
Hey, you hear something?
Earl, I don't hear anything.
I don't know, it just sounded like a car pulled up.
It's just your imagination.
Katrine, I'll get it. Probably just a missionary stopping by asking us if we've found Jesus or something. Hate those guys. Hey, if you're a missionary, please leave. We're busy at the moment, and we don't have time.
Open up! This is the FBI! We have you surrounded! Leave the building with your hands up or we will open fire upon you!
It's the cops.
Oh hell. Barry, Oakley, smoke these guys.
We got him!
Good evening, I'm Christy Stigler. We've interrupted normal programming because we are receiving some breaking news coming out of Wheeling, West Virginia. Here with more information regarding the situation is our Pittsburgh correspondent, Jacob Gabriels. What do you have for us, Jacob?
Christy, I'm outside a house in Wheeling where a shootout has just taken place between the FBI, the Wheeling Police Department, and members of Red Iris. The end result is a result that the country has been waiting for. While one officer has been killed, and 3 have been injured, with 1 critically, it has been confirmed that the mastermind behind the Washington attack, Katrina Feeler, has been shot and killed as a result of the firefight, along with the majority of the organization. Those that weren't killed have been arrested, including second-in-command Oakley Cusick.
Are you sure, Jacob?
Christy, I just saw 3 officers drag out the body of Katrina Feeler a couple of minutes ago, so yeah, I'm sure.
That's amazing news.
Indeed. Clearly, this is news that the entire country has been waiting for. after the tragedy at Etihad Center more than a week ago. This is just amazing. One can only imagine the feelings and thoughts going through the victims' families right now, including the family of our former co-worker, Russell Westlake. What is important now, though, is that it is over.
Thanks for the information, Jacob. Keep in touch.
Will do.
We'll be returning to this story shortly, but not before a brief station identification. This is Christy Stigler for ABC 7, and we'll be back shortly.